Welcome to the Decentralized News Podcast, where we report the major events affecting the crypto economy. I am your host, Piter, joined as always by Ozzy. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Awesome, just surviving the storms out here in Hawaii. We had a hurricane brush by the island, but I'm doing fine. We had some power outage issues, but other than that, all good. We got some exciting stories. We are getting, 4 months into the halving now? 5 months?
Yeah, 4 months, I think.
Just waiting. Did we hit an all-time high already? I personally doubt it, but we've seen a pump lately. So what happened? Now, this is entertaining content, not financial advice, but please do subscribe. So we've got the two main catalysts that I saw were the Federal Reserve and kind of Trump with a couple of endorsements that came through seemed to stop the momentum of Harris. But the TLDR I got for it is Trump plus rate cuts bullish. Harris plus rate cuts bullish.
Yeah.
Did you see the Jerome Powell talk?
Everything that Jerome Powell's been putting out has been feeding everybody's wallets, that's for sure. The FOM's Jerome Powell's statements at Jackson Hole and the FOMC minutes that came out earlier that week really fed the market, signaling that rate cuts are imminent, which really there's a guaranteed rate cut in September. He was pretty straightforward on his point about that. Whether it's a quarter basis point, half a basis point, or a full basis point, he left that to everyone's imaginations. With the FOMC minutes suggesting at least 3 cuts this year, so 3/4 basis point cuts, whether that's done in 2 meetings, 3 meetings, that's left to be seen. But there's definitely a very clear signal sent to the market and just to everyone looking at interest rates, really, the whole macro situation. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think we're definitely seeing a pivot. And the last time this happened, it was also fairly close to an election, a little earlier in the election cycle. Last time we saw the rate cuts start to happen, but it was bullish, although not right away, but bullish for crypto. We're 21 days away from the next rate cut meeting. It seems like it's the only thing that would affect the market is if we do more than 1 basis point, have 2 cuts come in, and we have data coming in that may affect that. We had unemployment revision and payroll divisions that were worse. Then we also have GDP coming in this week, some inflation numbers with PCE coming in this week, and then more unemployment numbers next week. So as far as expectations, and also the market seems to expect that we'll have 4 rate cuts by the end of the year. So there may, anyway.
Yeah, there's almost a 60-40 split right now at the December meeting that we see that we're actually down by essentially a whole percent before the end of the year rather than percent, which is what's currently expected by the FOMC participants. So it's really interesting. Most of the market is saying it's about a 70% chance that we only see 1 cut this meeting, 30% saying that there's going to be 2 cuts in September on the 18th. Looking at November, it gets closer to 50-50 in terms of whether we see 1 cut or 2. And then it gets really lopsided where we're seeing an expectation in December of potentially seeing rates at 4%, between 4 and 4.25%, or there's even about 4% of participants expecting 3.25%. So that's pretty wild, with only 30% expecting there to only be 2 cuts. Actually, only being 2 cuts or 3 cuts. So that's pretty wild.
The only thing that will excite the market as far as it's September is if they do double down on it and do 2 cuts. But I really do expect them to start slow and then maybe ramp it up later. The other big story is the USA elections. And I was also looking at a chart for the 4-year cycle, and it really does line up with the US elections. And we've certainly seen pumps after the election. There seems to be a difference in what the market likes and how high the market cycle talk can go between, Harris or Trump. But we had a couple of former Democrats. I think they're admitting that they have to form a coalition if they want to take out the party that's in power. But anyway, so we had RFK Jr. drop out of the race and endorse Trump, showed up at his rally. He's going to work with Trump on child health issues. So there's going to be some sort of collaboration inside And then we also had former Democrat out of Hawaii. I really like her. I don't know if you've ever heard her speak, but Tulsi Gabbard came out today and endorsed Trump. So we have former Democrats coming out and endorsing Trump. So interesting. And just to note that Poly market, it now has Trump with a slight lead. It was really trending the other way for a while. Harris had a lot of momentum, but that seems to have stalled out.
Yeah. She had a lot of momentum because of the DNC, like that whole rally and that whole convention with Obama going out and speaking and all of that. Poly markets had her swinging up about 4 or 5% above Trump at the time. But it's very quickly, at least when poly markets come back to a slight lead for Trump, although Trump does lead a little bit more heavily in some of the swing states, such as Ohio. So
that was the other thing about the RFK endorsement, is that he strategically left his name on certain ballots. So he was clearly trying to help Trump, even with the actions he could take in terms of where he left his name on the ballot and where he took it off state by state. He tried to leave it on strategically where it would help Trump the most.
yeah, this is something that's interesting because he's a Democrat. He's a former Democrat, but he got shunned by the Democratic Party in terms of having a chance at this election, and it's interesting to see him endorse.
Yeah, they were actively trying to keep him off ballot in states and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry.
They went after him a little bit.
Yeah, and so to see him go out and endorse Trump, they also align on crypto quite a bit, and so that this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard is also pro crypto, so yeah, bullish for crypto in general.
Yeah, and if
we can move on. There's another big story with the TON arrest in France. Did you see that?
Oh,
that
yeah.
Affected TON price for sure. It seemed to mark the end of this little, I want to say it's an altcoin
little rally.
Yeah, it was like a storm. It's not like alt season. It was more like a little alt storm that came through.
Yeah, a little dead cat pounce a little bit with most of the market down between 2 and 3% this morning, or today at least. Bitcoin's down about 1.5%. And
yeah, this story seemed to kick off the end of that little alt storm. Maybe just coincidence, but
no, I think this definitely had an impact because Telegram and TON play a pretty significant role in all of crypto. In terms of Telegram is one of 2 social media apps or 3 social media apps really used by projects. It's either Telegram, Discord, or Twitter, more or less.
Yeah, they have a blockchain and it is growing fast. They are players in the space for sure.
Yeah, they're one of the foremost players, at least for Southeast Asia and the Middle East as well, in Africa. There's a game Dogs, a tap to earn game Dogs, that has grown incredibly popular through Telegram and their platform. So that's interesting. And to see the arrest happen in France, where Telegram is saying that it's compliant with the Digital Services Act in the EU, but the CEO being arrested at the French airport, not something that a lot of people expected. And there are some people coming out, such as Elon Musk, saying that it's a target and an attack on freedom of speech. An important thing to know about Telegram is it's anonymous. You can more or less do or say whatever you want without linking your identity. You have to link a phone number, but that's about it. And the president of France saying that the arrest was not political, but that it was made because basically Telegram was not complying with reporting and information sharing requirements under the Digital Services Act for financial crimes. So this is the other thing about Telegram, is there's a lot of scammers out there that use Telegram. They use everything now, but Telegram was, I think, one of the spots where they get their start pretty pervasively in crypto. And we're waiting to see what the formal charge sheet looks like. That could come as late as the 28th. But it will be interesting to see what happens there.
I think the important thing to note is that it has nothing to do with necessarily blockchain, even though it affected the price. It has to do with how they're managing, how people are using their application, their messenger app, and their posts and things like that. But it is a reminder that when there is a CEO, which Bitcoin doesn't have, right? That's a famous example. There is another layer of risk when investing these projects.
Oh, absolutely. There's definitely an added layer of risk, and we'll see what happens with TON and Telegram. I assume that we'll see a bounce back. Bull markets are built on a wall of worry. You climb that wall of worry, and then you see the sunshine, you see the light. If you look at the Bitcoin price over the last kind of 3 cycles and how well it lines up with the USA elections, and that really kicking off the bull run is pretty impressive, with both bull markets kicking off in the January, basically January or February of the year after the election. The election happens in November every year. You get a little bit of a bump usually based on that, and then you really see it starting to take off in January, February, from there in sometimes December in that year just after the election. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially because rate cuts are falling right in line with that. Your talk of easy rate cuts happening first. If we look in the previous cycle, that happened a couple small cuts, and then they went for bigger cuts, and that, especially once they hit the bigger cuts, that's when Bitcoin really started taking off. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with just everything that's coming. If we look right now, the Ethereum Petra upgrade, which is supposed to come in Q1 of 2025, is got some pretty incredible things coming to the blockchain. One of the lesser talked about things is they're upgrading and revamping the entire Ethereum virtual machine. So that's like a pretty cool piece of upgrade, because it really will make the whole blockchain that much more up to date and make deploying smart contracts easier and faster. So that's pretty impressive. This is not really generated a lot of hype or FOMO yet, and there's definitely some pretty interesting aspects. There's account abstraction, which allows like externally owned accounts to temporarily act as smart contract wallets for transactions. So this can allow people to batch transactions and save on fees, a whole bunch of different things that could really make using the blockchain just more efficient and less costly. The other one is around validators and staking. Right now, you're required to stake a minimum of 32, and you can only stake 32. You can now, with the Petra upgrade, it'll raise the limit to 2048 ETH. So you can basically compound your rewards and slowly grow your validator position over time. So rather than having to wait till you have another whole 32 Ethereum, you can immediately just compound that into your existing validator up until 2048 ETH. So that's pretty good.
It's good for both large and small validators. It reduces costs for large validators and creates compounding opportunities for smaller ones. And in the account abstraction one, there's a fee sponsorship, so that you don't actually have to have ETH in order to interact with a lot of these dApps. So the fees can be sponsored, so you don't actually have to hold it. I thought that was interesting and could improve user experience.
Yeah, I think that could really improve
A lot of big deal stuff, and the fact that you said it's coming in under the radar. The ETH ETF hasn't been a big mover. Their previous majorly hyped upgrades weren't huge movers. The prices lagged, and maybe this one will sneak in under the radar, actually have some big changes in here, and maybe see some brighter days ahead for ETH.
Absolutely. And one thing that has caught me by surprise is what's going on with one of ETH's major competitors, probably their biggest competitor in the space right now, Solana. Solana has just had their second ETF approved in Brazil. The Brazilian SEC, the Hashdex Brazil Solana ETF. This Hashdex is an asset manager with about $962 million under management, and they just launched they're getting ready to launch the second Solana ETF. With ETH just getting their first ones, or their first set in the US, Brazil and Solana are getting their second already. So that's pretty interesting to see, especially considering there's always the rumor of what's the next ETF. And
my dark horse is AVAX, and they made a splash too. Grayscale is now offering a product with AVAX, not an ETF per se, but yeah, it's their trust, which they did before, but it was like a precursor.
Yeah, it's what they spin off into the ETFs afterwards. Solana has
they also
one
have one
already.
They have a new CEO, and he has just been launching product. He's a TradFi guy. I forget exactly which company, but a big one. And they launched a Tau one, a Sui one. So they've been going all in. They, as far as why AVAX, in terms of a statement from the company, they have key partnerships and unique multi-chain structure. Avalanche is playing a pivotal role in the advancement of RWA tokenization, which I thought was interesting because I think of AVAX more for the gaming and the subnets, but the fact that they're going to consider a real player in real world assets as well was cool to hear.
Yeah. I think this was really boosted by what they just did and announced with Franklin Templeton. Franklin Templeton is one of the largest asset managers in the US and pretty active in the blockchain space as a whole. They do have a Bitcoin ETF, and I think they have an ETH ETF. I'm not 100% sure on that, but they're talking about launching their own tokenized money market fund on AVAX. So this is similar to what BlackRock is talking about launching on the blockchain as well, but rather than doing it in the ETH and base ecosystem, and Franklin Templeton's choosing to do it on AVAX, and that's pretty major. I haven't seen the rest of. There's not a lot of details on that announcement yet, but that is pretty bullish for AVAX in terms of RWA adoption.
Yeah, I like some of these. Like when I'm looking for tokens outside of Bitcoin, like I have a longer term time horizon. I don't know. Everyone has a unique look at the market, but I'm thinking like 2 or 3 cycles. I'm hoping to retire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I'm looking for things that are going to altcoins in terms of ones I want to hold longer, I'm thinking 2 or 3 cycles, and AVAX is one that I could see being there still. There's a lot of stuff when you start getting the further down the list you go in terms of market cap where it becomes risky to say they'll be around. You know what I mean? It's almost like you play it a little differently. Potentially you might sell in this cycle, that kind of thing. But I always like AVAX in that way. Polygon's another one I like in that way.
Yeah, Polygon and AVAX are both seem to be players that are going to stick around. I'm very excited because looking at the kind of the speed run that we've got, one of the big things that's coming up is the Matic to Pole migration, which is happening on September 4th. So that's a big news for AVAX. It is one for Polygon, and it's one of the first pieces that's really going to enable the ag layer, which I am very bullish on.
During this last little alt season that we had, they were one of the tokens that really performed. They've been lagging, it seemed like, the market, and we're definitely a part of the fall, but they seem to come back pretty strong.
Absolutely. I'm pretty bullish on what's going to come with Matic and Polygon. And so this is it's definitely something to watch. They're up quite a bit in the last 7 days, almost 20%, about 18%, and they're down 4.5 right, or 4 and a bit right now. But that shows just how much they rose because of the news and this upcoming upgrade. Looking at some other news, Tether is planning to launch the UAE Dirham peg stablecoin, which I guess they're really looking to branch onto other dollar forms. And they are also launching USDT live on Aptos. So some interesting adoption there.
And we also got 62 million worth of SUI that will be unlocked on September 1st. It's a interesting token, wants to compete with Solana, it seems like, in terms of fast, but they have a low float kind of a thing going on. Interesting to note their unlocks. Then we also have the activation of Stacks, which is like a Bitcoin layer 2, but they're having one of the older ones. They're having their biggest upgrade yet, calling it the Nakamoto on August 28th. So maybe a catalyst in the market there.
Absolutely. And then we've got Uniswap announcing a V4. This likely has to do with their real yield fee sharing proposal. That's the hope, and we're seeing the addition of hooks as well to make integration with Uniswap even better. We'll see if this kind of kicks off a bit of a revival in other DeFi protocols, as we see Frax and Aave already propose or enable a fee switch already. So pretty
seeing it would definitely send a signal to the market. This is a way to add value to your tokens and just gives people a chance to participate in a revenue share. That's great.
Absolutely. Looking further, Sonic Labs, which is previously known as Phantom, has announced that they're doing a points program called Sonic Boom with up to 30 winning projects earning gems by developing innovative apps on the network. Interesting kind of move by Phantom with the whole rebrand. I know that they were doing the Sonic upgrade, but now they're going by Sonic Labs. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, they're putting a lot of effort. Sonic Boom, pretty cool sounding name. That's like kind of one of those in terms of just thinking 2 or 3 cycles out. It's like, ooh, is it going to make it? But they're trying.
They're holding on for dear life at this point.
Yeah. All right. We got Sony. So this is more old school, and we haven't seen a lot of great things come from traditional companies. But Sony's tech company, an old school tech company, right? But they're launching their own layer 2, Sonium, powered on the OP stack. So I thought that was interesting. We'll see whatever comes of that. We'll start using it.
Yeah. And then Drift Protocol is launching their prediction market bet, which is the Solana Poly market competitor.
Polymarket has 85% of the market share, 100 million total value locked. But if anyone can compete, it seems like Solana seems like a decent chain for competition. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens and see how this rollout occurs and whether we see adoption. And then Magic Eden, probably one of the best, if not the best, marketplace out there for NFTs. They have announced they're going to launch a Magic Eden token. So that is...
Is there an airdrop with this one?
Yeah, there's been diamonds. You could collect diamonds for a while through trading on their platform, and that's likely going to result in an airdrop, get converted into tokens. That is just one part of it, because they also just launched their mobile wallet, which is, I downloaded it and I really like. It's pretty nice UI, very convenient, easy to use. You don't always need to sign in with your seed phrase. You can use a passcode on your phone, which is very nice if you're looking to trade on the go. Pretty interesting.
I've always been wary security-wise of mobile wallets. Let me know if you lose any funds.
Yeah, I'm not a big mobile user, but in terms of
it seems like when you hear about like issues, a lot of the times it has to do with mobile stuff, or it's just like tougher UI. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's eventually going to go that way, so it's still pretty cool.
No, and I think it's more that on mobile, people aren't paying as close attention. They're acting fast, and that's where you can click malicious links. Not necessarily have to do with the security of the wallet itself. But yeah, I don't trade on mobile very often, but it's an interesting feature, and often if I do keep 1 or 2 wallets on my mobile that are separated with their own seed phrase from everything else, and they're just for mobile usage, for if I need to get into an airdrop or get into a pre-sale really fast and I'm not at home.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I do have some wallets on my mobile phone, but yeah, I'm just wary a little bit of it.
Oh, absolutely. You should always be wary of anything that either holding your keys that someone could get a hold of or could be compromised somehow. Definitely worth to be secure.
You should always be pessimistic with security, that's for sure. Pessimistic attitude. Something's wrong. What is wrong here?
Absolutely.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed the show. That pretty much wraps it up for us. Any Goon updates for us? There was something on QuickSwap today, wasn't there?
Yeah, so the token was just whitelisted on QuickSwap. So when you go put in the contract address or search for Goon, it will come up, and it doesn't come with warnings. So that's pretty big in terms of for Goon. And there's actually quite a few big updates getting ready to come out in the next week or two, with the team working pretty hard on a few different things right now. And so I'm pretty excited for when we'll be able to share that. And I mean, if you've been watching the Goon account or Caleb Denny or Mr. Future Polygon, they've been on quite a few spaces with some pretty big players in the Polygon space talking about Goon lately. So you should definitely check out what they're doing either in the Telegram or in the Discord, because there's a lot going on there.
I hope you all enjoyed the show. Please do consider likes and subscribes. We appreciate it. This is not financial advice. Please do your own research and due diligence. Always be pessimistic. As for entertainment and educational purposes only, probably more on the entertainment side, I hope. I don't know. Anyway, I'll see you all next week, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.